It all began on a quiet evening in Denver, Colorado, where the city lights glowed softly against the night sky. Emily Carter had just returned home from work, exhausted but hopeful for a calm evening with her boyfriend, Daniel Hayes. They had been dating for nearly 2 years, and in many ways, Daniel was everything she had once dreamed of in a partner: kind, steady, hardworking. Yet, like most relationships, theirs wasn't without flaws. That night, the conversation started small, harmless. Emily had been scrolling through old photos on her phone while sitting on the couch, and she stumbled across a picture from years ago with her ex-boyfriend Jason. She didn't intend to bring it up, but memories have a way of slipping out when least expected. "You know, Daniel," she said without much thought, "you're not like Jason at all. He was always loud, impulsive, and, well, you're just different." Her tone wasn't meant to hurt, but as soon as the words left her lips, she saw Daniel stiffen. His usually calm blue eyes narrowed slightly, and his jaw tightened. "What's that supposed to mean?" he asked, his voice low, defensive. Emily blinked, realizing she might have stepped on something delicate. "I meant it as a compliment," she explained quickly. "Jason was reckless, selfish even. You're stable, dependable, better." But Daniel didn't hear it that way. "So, I'm just the opposite of someone else you were with? That's how you see me," he argued. Emily's heart sank. She hadn't expected the reaction. "No, that's not it at all," she said softly. "I just meant you're your own person. You're not like him, and that's something I appreciate." But Daniel shook his head. "You don't compare me to him in your head? You don't measure me against someone who's long gone." The air in the living room grew heavy. The soft hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen was suddenly the loudest sound in the apartment. Emily reached out, trying to touch his hand, but he pulled it away. "Daniel, please don't twist this," she whispered. "I didn't mean to hurt you." But Daniel's pride, already wounded, wouldn't let him hear the softness in her voice. He stood abruptly, the legs of the chair scraping against the hardwood floor. "You know what, Emily?" he said, his voice colder now. "I'm tired of feeling like I have to prove myself to you. If I'm not enough as me, then maybe you should figure out what you really want." And just like that, he grabbed his jacket from the coat rack, slipped on his shoes, and left the apartment. Emily sat frozen, staring at the door that had slammed shut behind him. She couldn't believe how quickly the night had unraveled. The silence after he left. The apartment felt eerily quiet without Daniel's presence. Emily's heart raced as guilt swirled inside her. She hadn't meant to compare him to Jason. She thought she was expressing gratitude for who Daniel was. But maybe she hadn't been careful enough. Memories came flooding back. Jason, with his temper and unpredictable behavior, had left scars she thought she had healed from. But maybe those scars showed themselves more often than she realized, spilling into her relationship with Daniel. She sat on the couch, phone in hand, debating whether to text him. But her pride and fear tangled together, leaving her paralyzed. What if he needed space? What if reaching out made things worse? Daniel's night. Meanwhile, Daniel drove aimlessly through the streets of Denver. His mind replayed her words over and over. "You're not like Jason at all." On the surface, it should have been a compliment. But deep down, it felt like a shadow he could never escape. He hated the thought that Emily compared him, even unconsciously, to someone from her past. He parked outside an all-night diner, the kind of place with neon lights buzzing faintly in the window. Sliding into a booth, he ordered a coffee he didn't need and stared at the dark liquid, trying to calm his racing thoughts. He wasn't angry at Emily alone. He was angry at himself for caring so much about what she said. Why did her words cut so deep? Maybe because he loved her more than he wanted to admit. And love made people vulnerable. The longest night. Back at the apartment, Emily couldn't sleep. Every sound from the street outside, car doors slamming, footsteps on the sidewalk, made her hope Daniel was coming back. But hours passed, and the door remained closed. Finally, at 3 a.m., she sent a text. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean it the way it sounded. Please come home so we can talk." But the message remained unread. Emily curled up on the couch, clutching a pillow, tears streaming silently down her face. She replayed every moment of their argument, wondering how a single sentence had pushed them to this point. Ugh. The next morning, Daniel returned just after sunrise. His eyes were tired, his shoulders slumped, but when he stepped inside, Emily's heart flooded with relief. "Daniel," she whispered, standing quickly. "I didn't sleep at all. I was so worried." He set his keys on the counter and looked at her. "I needed time to think," he said quietly. Emily stepped closer. "I wasn't comparing you to Jason. I was trying to say I love the way you're different. That you're the kind of man I've always hoped for." For a moment, Daniel didn't speak. His silence hung heavy between them. Finally, he sighed. "You have to understand, Emily. I don't want to be measured against anyone else. I just want to be seen as me." "I know," she said softly, tears welling in her eyes. "And you are. You're not a replacement or a comparison. You're the person I love. The only person." Her voice cracked as she reached for his hand again. This time he didn't pull away. Healing the rift. They spent the morning talking, really talking. Emily shared the pain of her past, the ways Jason had left her insecure and cautious. Daniel admitted that his biggest fear was never being enough for her, especially if ghosts of her past lingered in the shadows. It wasn't an easy conversation, but it was honest. By the end of it, they both understood something vital. Relationships aren't just about love. They're about patience, forgiveness, and the willingness to hear what the other person truly means, not just the words they say. Months later, the fight that night became a turning point. Daniel and Emily began to communicate better, checking in with each other before small frustrations grew into something bigger. Emily became more mindful of her words, and Daniel learned to voice his insecurities instead of letting them fester. One evening, months later, as they walked hand in hand through downtown Denver, Emily glanced at him with a smile. "You know what I realized?" she said softly. "What's that?" he asked. "You're not like Jason. You're nothing like him. And that's the best thing that's ever happened to me." This time Daniel smiled. "Now that I can live with." They laughed together, their hearts lighter than they had been in a long time. Closing reflection. In the end, it wasn't the argument that defined their relationship, but how they came back from it. For Emily and Daniel, love wasn't about perfection. It was about choosing each other again and again, even after the hardest nights. And sometimes it took losing someone, if only for a night, to remember how deeply you didn't want to lose them at all.